The Orville, Season 1, Episode 8, Into the Fold.
The fold of power.
No, just a spatial fold.
That was really trippy.
Well, and it also sort of... I guess it's a double meaning, because they're literally into a spatial fold. And more figuratively, into the fold as in sort of Isaac kind of becoming part of the
The
family.
family.
So, part of the Finn family. So, yeah. It has a double meaning there.
Yeah.
Which good titles can have nice double meanings, like, oh,
At
okay.
least it wasn't a triple entendre, because that would have just been creepy.
Okay.
Different kind of folds.
Let's see. So this one was written by Brandon Braga and Andre Bormanis.
So, Braga.
Yeah, Braga.
Star Trek fame.
Yeah, well, yeah, of lots of Star Trek fame.
He was one of the head writers in most of the later series, starting Next Gen on, I think.
Yeah, I don't remember what all he did, but he's very expensive. Not very, probably very expensive, but very expansive repertoire. Very expensive, not repertoire, but resume. Yeah, the current thoughts this morning.
I know he was one of the lead writers on Voyager.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Enterprise.
Wonder if he was the one responsible for the
Gosh, I hope not.
Or the smooth-headed, the official canon explanation for the smooth Klingon.
Maybe.
Oh, slightly off topic, but still sort of in the science fiction thing. I suppose this is kind of a spoiler, so I don't really want to get into it. But the Klingons are just basically are going to have some of the Klingons are going to have slightly different looks, I think, for the season 2 of Discovery. Like, you can look it up yourself if you want to, but I don't want to spoil everything. Some of them will.
Yeah,
I think.
for those of us who haven't watched past 4 episodes, because bleh.
Yeah, I haven't watched anything of it because they messed up the Klingons so badly.
I know.
And then
the paywall.
And the paywall. And the weird spore drive concept. I mean, that could still work, but it's... No.
I feel so badly for that creature. That poor little that poor giant tardigrade.
But yeah, there's so much wrong with. It's like you could have written this as a completely different story, and it probably would have been better off.
She was supposed to be Spock's adopted sister.
Yeah, I haven't watched any of it, but it's really awful.
And something that's properly Star Trek, even though it's not Star Trek by name.
Yeah, it's Orville. Yeah, this is the true successor to the Star Trek name in terms of if you want a successor to the Next Generation
and Voyager.
Yeah. Well, the Next Generation, mostly because yes, the other ones were successors to it, but they were a different style. Um, you know, Deep Space Nine was a very different type of show than TNG because it was a lot less episodic, and you needed to watch them in order. Whereas, for the most part, you can watch TNG in any order, and almost any order. There are some things that won't make sense, like Drumhead. Parts of Drumhead won't make sense until you've seen uh, the Cutis of Borg come out. Um, it won't make parts of the Drumhead won't make sense there, but for the most part, you can really watch it in any order and you're fine. Whereas you try and watch DS9 in a random order, it ain't gonna work. Voyager's kind of the same. What?
Fairly episodic for, being they were lost in space and trying to find their way home.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, they
But
then
that
again,
was
but
actually
they were also had that sort of ongoing we're lost in space sort of
yeah, but it was
storyline. This
still
doesn't have an ongoing storyline. It's sort of these are just the adventures of the Orville. It's fully in Union space. It's not out in the middle of nowhere. It's not on a space station. You know, they aren't trying to deal with another species in terms of, they don't have to answer to another species about how they go out and explore the galaxy and that sort of thing. So, you know, in terms of setup, it's more TNG than it is anything else. Um, it's
you
got
know
that.
who would be awesome guest star for an episode? Delancey.
Except he has to honor he has to sort of pay homage to that by going, "What? Do you expect me to just snap my fingers and make it happen?"
Yes.
That he has to be sort of a grumpy engineering type, and it's just like, "What do you expect me to snap my fingers and make it work? You send us halfway across the galaxy?" It's like it doesn't work like that. Oh god. But then like, just at the end, for no apparent reason, he just disappears. He's just like, it's like don't quite nod that it's Q, but just sort of letting anybody who wants to think it's Q can think it's Q.
Yeah.
But
I mean, they have had other guests and from the Star Trek universe as far as actors, and they've had quite a few guests like writers and directors.
yeah, he had Frakes and Burton and yeah,
Um, Robert Duncan McNeil.
yeah, Paris, yeah. But it's yeah, if you're going into a successor, you know, if you're looking for what this sort of succeeds, it's mostly in the vein of TNG or well, more TNG because I was gonna think, well, would it be TOS? But TOS was still more cowboy time. It wasn't really. It was sort of the Wild West out there, and
Yeah,
they were still trying to
this
cowboy
feels
diplomacy out
like
there.
TNG.
TNG, yeah, everything's sort of established. They do have conflicts with some species, but for the most part, the Union/Federation is established, and they're well within their own fleet's range, and the episodes are episodic. You get some growth, but for the most part, everything's sort of, for the most part, just you
And
can
you
watch it
even
in
have
any order, and
data.
it doesn't change much.
And you even have data.
Yeah, a different data, but
Kind of an anti-data in a way, because Data was all for, hey, I want to be like you. I want to be human. And humans are superior to me because I'm just a robot. And Isaac is like, I'm a robot. You guys suck.
Which is essentially one of the problems of this one of the things with this episode. Not like a problem with the episode, but like one of the problems he's dealing with in this episode.
One of the plot points of the episode.
Yeah, plot. One of the things they have to overcome in this episode, because it's basically you get Isaac and the kids, so two relatively chaotic people. I mean, they're kids. Kids are naturally chaotic. Two rambunctious young boys who are a little chaotic, and then you have Isaac, who is all about order and efficiency and whatnot, and it's just these two do not go together very well in terms of
I
personality.
love when he copied her. He's questioning you know that's not that's not working. Why do you keep repeating your actions? She's like, here's a piece of advice for you. Never question a mother's parenting technique. And then he goes and copies her verbatim. It's like, don't make me turn this with the classic, don't make me turn this around right here and right now.
But yeah, you got one kid that's sort of excited about it, and one kid that's getting to be that age where they're too cool for things. It's like, no, I'm too cool for that. Too cool for that.
I just want to play my video game.
Yeah.
A video game.
I'm too cool for that. And but let's see. They were going to send Lamar with them, but apparently he was in engineering, supervising an upgrade to the ship's spatial manifold. So that's why Isaac gets stuck with the job. Though he also kind of wanted, I think he wanted to see how things, study them, how family units work up close and personal.
Yeah, I think Lamar dodged that bullet.
Yes, I need to install this new manifold we just got upgrade specs for. Yes, that's what I need to do. I don't want to be stuck on that shuttle with those kids for however long it was going to take.
Especially somebody like Lamar, because he's kind of a jackass.
Yeah, it's like, no, like, of the crew, like, don't want to put Isaac on there, though you do anyway. Lamar, no. Malloy, no.
No way.
He teach those kids things they don't need to know yet.
It was probably between Malloy and Lamar, and that's why it's like, okay, Lamar, yeah, you could totally.
Yeah, and then you've got of the bridge crew, Bortus. Okay, but he's also third in command, so you kind of need him, and you can't send anybody above him. I think you need the three. You need Captain, XO, and then the sort of third in command in terms of Bortus. Though I don't. Though that would have been interesting because he's got some of the same problems as Isaac, in that he can be a bit too blunt.
But he also is a mother or father on his own right.
Yeah. So he's also got that to worry about. So that may be why you don't send Bortus with them either. It's like, yes, he's staying home helping his partner with the child. But yeah. Oh, oh, I just thought.
Well, I mean, you could have sent Alara, but she's
Oh yeah,
needed on the because security chief of security.
yeah. I
You
mean,
I,
admittedly, Isaac is the chief science officer, but you know, it's yeah. Alara would have probably been fine. She would have been. What she probably would have done was said would have carried a piece of metal with her, some little bit of scrap metal, and just go, when she's flying them in, it's like they start getting a little too rowdy. She just holds up a metal bar, bends it, and then sets it down. Like, oh, oh, okay. um,
it's your game next.
yeah. Or oh, I know why you didn't send this one, but Norm Macdonald's
Yaphet,
character, yeah, was it
Yaphet the blob.
Yaphet? Yeah, Yaphet. Uh,
Oh gosh, Yaphet would be like, "Oh, look at us, one big happy family."
oh shit.
Ooh, but I think I got this covered. Isaac, you're free, right? He'd be
Yeah,
begging at that point.
yeah. There's multiple reasons not to bring Yaphet. Finn wouldn't appreciate it. He's an engineer by trade, from what I remember. Because
Yeah,
what
he's
happens later, what happens with passing him over for chief engineer uh, with Lamar in later episodes, but um, so that's a little bit of a spoiler. But if you haven't watched it by now, finish watching it. Uh,
Mhm.
um, but yeah, I mean, thinking of all that's basically most of the crew. I mean, almost anybody but sort of Beloy, Lamar, and Isaac would seem like a good choice, though some of them are obviously occupied. So, but but yeah. So anyway, so they taken through the spatial anomaly. They're beat up, torn apart, and dumped. And basically, shuttles ripped in two. They sent down to a planet, and they have to sort of fight off this horde of sickly people who have basically
Let's
turned
face it, they're
cannibal for lack
zombies.
of food.
Let's face it, they're zombies. They have to fight off a horde of zombies.
Essentially, which uh, which makes the you know when they blow them when they attack them, less of a moral idea. It's like, no, they're going to try and kill and eat us. We have to stop them. It's like,
But make sure you keep it on stun because just because they have no qualms about hurting us, we're still
we're
more.
better
We
than
still
them.
have.
Oh, but
You're still above them.
well, don't they at the end of the episode
They
uh
scare them off with the blasters.
yeah, I suppose, but let's see. Let's see. They get tossed on that. Uh, uh, Finn is abducted by a local that's not completely, in
But
fact, completely messed up by the thing.
at least not physically.
Yeah. Uh,
He seems to be one of those apocalypse now type people, though.
but
I was prepared.
I knew
For
it
the
was
day.
coming.
I
They
knew it
said
was
I was crazy, but I knew better. And look at him now, starving, sick. I'm just fine. I'm not sure why that voice was the one I chose, but okay. Let's see. The Isaac and the boys agree they want to find their mother. Isaac goes off to search, and leaves the gun with the boys while they while he goes and looks for her. Another one of the locals tries to abduct the boys, but Isaac saves them. Let's see. At this point, they figure out that the Finns have disappeared.
the
As
Finns and Isaac.
what? Yeah, no, Isaac. The shuttle's gone missing, and let's see. They get the manifold back in. They don't have the navigational ray, but they got the manifold in, so they can actually travel, but they just have to navigate by stars. He needs dice. We get back to Isaac. Isaac's trying to send a signal out, but he needs dysonium to send a distress signal for help. And they find some, well, by scanning. Meanwhile, Claire is dealing with being locked in the room with the bucket of food, saying it's a safe place, and she's trying desperately to get out. This is a safe place. You eat. Isaac again deals with a bunch of the zombies essentially. Let's see. I mean, the overall blow by blow is less important than the entirety of it. They basically, one of the boys gets sick, and they're stranded, and they're worried about it. And then, because was it the water that was tainted, I think.
The water was a toxin in the water.
Yeah, that's what was causing all the problems.
Yeah.
And so he got in the water, and
Don't drink the water.
And so that ended up, he ended up sort of getting onto the zombiness. And eventually Claire manages to escape, reunites with them, and Isaac has gotten a better handle on family relations. In the end of it, and the boys like him because they respect him because he helped them through a very difficult time. And Finn figures out how to cure the disease.
Your boys are unruly, undisciplined, obnoxious. I'm quite fond of them. Welcome to the family.
Yeah. She figures out, and I guess let's see, what was it? Uh, they for once they don't immediately, when they've figured out a cure for something, they don't immediately try and deploy it. Like it's like she was hoping that the Union would let her go and distribute the cure to the people, but it may be a matter of uh, uh, something akin to a prime directive. It's like, yeah, we didn't have much choice landing there, but we can choose whether to interfere any more than we had to get out of there. Which makes me also wonder if they've, if when they got out of the, when they got out of there, when they were rescued, did they scuttle the shuttle, or did they just sort of leave it there?
I was wondering the same thing. I'm pretty sure they salvaged it.
Yeah, there's two with if they have the equivalent of a prime directive, which it seems like they do.
Not even just that. More along the lines of that's valuable stuff that
Well,
can be repaired.
it was pretty shattered. It was in two places, and he barely got it working enough to
Yes, but
call out.
they use matter replication devices.
I suppose they could. Yeah, it's a matter of well, do they have
Material.
do the yeah, it's a matter of having all the elements required to create it. If there is rare elements in the construction of their shuttles, if it's not just common elements in very specific arrangements, then yeah, but do they have the facility? I guess they could take it to a shipyard and say, broke it pretty severely, but here's the materials. Can you,
Blame Isaac.
yeah, can you make this back into a a proper shuttle? Just because at that point, which seems interesting to me, is with all the like with all the sort of spacefaring uh, things, all the spacefaring species and whatnot, it seems interesting to me that nobody ever thought of, what we could do? We could build one of these ships the normal way, scan it, and load the materials in, and then just replicate it. And it would be perfect every time. And we just slap a different name on it. And that's how we just build massive replicators and, you know, with like several warp cores worth of power and you know and just that feeds the power into these massive replicators, and then we just have a big stockpile of the materials these ships are made out of, and just boop, boop, boop.
Basically, prefab 3D print your ships.
Yeah, essentially. At least with the smaller ships. I mean, I understand, maybe with a dreadnought or some big cruiser instead of a little science vessel or a shuttle, it might be a little tricky, but it seems like that would be the fastest way to build. You wouldn't have to hand build everything. You just take the ship out, you build one, you take the ship out, you test it, you make sure everything is exactly the way it needs to be, and then you scan it, make a copy of it, and you just keep making copies of it. It's perfect. It'll be a perfect copy, and since you already did your shakedown tests, you don't need to, everything's worked out, so you don't have to make a bunch of changes. And if you do need to make a bunch of changes, you just pick one of the ships that you're going to change, give it the refit, shake it down, make sure it's good, bring it back, scan it, and then produce an exact copy of it. And oh, here's this. Maybe it's just more power intensive, but if you were in a war, that would be how I would want to do it. It's like, yes, I need to produce massive amounts of fighting ships really freaking quickly. All right, gather the raw resources, and then we'll build a gigantic, essentially shipyard replicator, and we'll just replicate ships. Admittedly, was it? Well, you'd have to just get the lithium anyway, and then it would just replicate it into the right shape. But it would be very complex. But it takes like a second to build a little thing on a small replicator. Just build the whole ship by replication. But anyway, I ramble.
You've noticed.
Yes. I get on a tirade and I'm going to explain exactly what I mean. And then nobody stops me, so I just keep going on and on. But it was an interesting episode. It was a fun episode with Isaac and the boys, and I do
Nice
wonder what.
character study.
Yeah, and
Isaac.
what Yaphet thought. It's like, but I could have done that.
That's okay. He gets his in another episode.
Yeah, that I don't even want to think about that.
One might say he is gelling.
Let's see, anything else I can think of?
I can't wait for the Orville's return, though.
You have to the new year.
I know.
Yep, this is episode 8, so we actually probably, with the break, we're probably getting pretty close to. Well, we did do some at the end of the season or something, so we do have some of those. Some of them are done already.
Like 11 or 12 we started at.
So, yeah, 9, 10. So we may only have a couple. So we may be done in time with a little bit of time to spare between us finishing the reviews of the first season and us getting to the next season.
Well, the good news is there'll be new unit stuff by the time we come back, hopefully.
True.
Anyway, if there's no further business to deal with Into the Fold,
No.
Nope.
then I declare this session of this review adjourned.
Yes.
Indeed.